And you can also see smoke and flames belching out of the crematory chimneys. And the smell was atrocious. And you could always tell what sort of people being burned. Some people still from home who had a bit of flesh left on them, smelled different, like burning flesh or bacon, whatever you call it. And others, those who were skin and bone, emaciated people, they smelled just like rags. And this went on 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And if they didn't have enough new arrivals, so they had a reservoir of people in the camp to get rid of, you see. It was all carefully planned. Rudolf Hess was living with his wife and family there. And his, some prisoners working looking at a garden, she once confided in them. She said, "Do you know, it's so lovely living here," she said, "so peaceful. I hope it never ends." My husband was murdering thousands of people every day, and it's so peaceful and so forth. She knew what was up.
As the Red Army approached Auschwitz in November 1944, the Nazis murdered tens of thousands of inmates, destroyed the gas chambers, and moved those able to work to the very heart of Germany. The Nazis abandoned Auschwitz and a few thousand inmates who should have been shot but were left alive in all the confusion. It was only when the Red Army liberated Auschwitz on the 26th of January 1945 that the extent of the Holocaust became clear. Although the last major killing centre had been stopped, the Jews taken from Auschwitz would continue to suffer right up until the final moments of the war. Mayer Hirsch was taken out to Struthof, the length of Poland, by train with no food or water. As the Allies continued to close in, Mayer was moved to a succession of camps from the Baltic to the south of Germany. The long journey was not enjoyable. In the north it was bitterly cold and many suffered from frostbite. Moved on again, they were taken from a camp near Stuttgart in South Germany to the Weimar area, where they were put to work in underground bunkers loading ammunition. It was vital work, and so they were kept there almost until the Allies arrived. Yet again, they were not allowed to be liberated. Before the Allies could find them, the prisoners were made to run all day and all night. Anyone who dropped out was shot.
And all-night shooting would place. I thought that's purely to frighten us from any attempt of escape. In the morning, the whistle went to get up. Many of our friends did not get up. You see, they were all shot at random. The final part of that march was even more horrendous than before, because it was mountainous terrain, the Thuringian Mountains, and if a prisoner wanted to stop for a second or two to rest and join with the column behind him, he wouldn't be allowed to do that. Wherever he stopped, he just got one single bullet in his head, body kicked off the road, and finished. This went on all the time. The first time in my suffering, I've reached a very low point. I was ready to give up. I had no strength left. I could see no point. I could see my end is going to come very soon because everybody gets shot. And I spoke about my intentions aloud because I think secretly, subconsciously, I still did not want to give up. And when I said that to my next prisoners next to me, they said, "You can't give up now. The war is virtually finished. You've got to fight on." Complete strangers saved my life.
They arrived at Buchenwald, which was now totally overcrowded and poorly supplied, only to be forced to evacuate again. This time with the Jews were the Russian prisoners of war, all together in a train of coal wagons, standing 100 upright in each wagon. The journey was to last 3 weeks, with no food or water. They survived only by scavenging in puddles and eating grass and leaves wherever they stopped. Some ate their shoes. Some of the Russians turned to cannibalism. Many died. Eventually, the Russian prisoners were abandoned and Jews were taken over the Sudeten mountains to Theresienstadt. There they planned to exterminate the remaining Jews in the gas chambers. But events moved fast. On the 8th of May 1945, the Russians arrived. Meyer, by then, was suffering badly from typhus, but the joy of his companions touched Meyer too, and gave him hope and the strength to survive. The Russians established field hospitals for the liberated Jews, and Meyer had his first proper wash for 5 years. After a few months, the British government allowed into Britain 1,000 young people who had been liberated. Meyer was amongst them. In August 1945, he found himself at Windermere.
The first place we arrived, of course, was Windermere, the most beautiful part in the country, in a very nice time of the year as well, 14th of August. From hell, we arrived in heaven. It's no use being ungrateful and forgetting the good things and always remembering the sad ones. That is not right. You've got to be balanced in life. You see? Because life is like that. And then you come out from that ordeal, and you've got to celebrate it, and you've got to thank God and thank the people that were involved in making your lot much better.